the people I know like feel like it's not cool to listen to other genres of music. Country music is where I get all my harmonies. Country and gospel music, that's where all my harmonies come from.
In a viral TikTok, musician and Twitch star T-Pain admitted he writes country songs, but prefers to keep his name off said credits publicly because the racism runs rampant in the genre of country music. I'll just take the check, he says, instead of having his name out there. Then
I write a lot of country music. I write a lot of
country artists.
For huge country artists that would rather not have it known that I did it. I've written a lot of. I lived in Nashville for 2 years. I literally lived at the studio. I parked my bus in the back of the studio and just lived on my bus at the studio. Just went in there every day. That's when I got back up with Taylor Swift and Luke Bryan and Rhett Atkins, Dallas Davidson. So I've written a lot of for a lot of very important country artists.
The Breakfast Club played audio from an interview he gave on the subject. The video is via his Twitch stream.
It reminds me a lot of the flag waving and choreographed patriotism that we had back in Nazi Germany a half a century ago. The fact that we got a one-party system which is in control of all three branches of our government, lapdog media that's cranking out propaganda for the administration and make a Nazi blush. Other than that, we're doing pretty good.
Sadly, it's a genre that has, through its bigger artists, abandoned its ways.
If you ask me, one of the illnesses is that there's too much money being spent on military and there should be more spent on education, welfare, young people, the children, the elderly, especially the elderly. There's always been a lot of things wrong with the country, but it's always been our obligation and opportunity to help straighten those things out. I love this country. I love America, for instance, When
the brightest stars spoke like this to corporatist shills like Jason Aldean, intentionally shooting a music video at the scene of the Maury County Courthouse, the location of many lynchings. Morgan Wallen is a massive name in the genre who has a history of his own.
It showed Wallen and a group of his friends coming home after a night out on the town in Nashville.
Hey, take care of this. Hey, Gracie, take care of this.
A neighbor was recording when Wallen said a racial slur.
Oliver Anthony had his viral time in the sun and was even championed by the likes of pro-insurrectionist Marjorie Taylor Greene, only for the relationship to turn sour when he advocated for community and said diversity in the U.S. is what makes us strong. So it was pretty clear. Conservatives adored him, and they even led off the second place Republican debate with a question about Oliver Anthony. But once they heard that he was for the working class, that is when they decided to cut ties with him completely. Recall Beyonce releasing Cowboy Carter.
I'm sorry, but if you're black, you're not country. I don't care. And I wish I meant that in the nicest way.
And the reaction from country fans upon said release. Of course, what many of these reactionaries really don't care to do at all is look into the deep history of their favorite genre of music. For instance, the banjo, an instrument synonymous with country music. It was created by enslaved Africans and their descendants in the Caribbean and colonial North America, per Smithsonian. Here they maintained and perpetuated the tradition with a complex system of slave labor camps, plantations, and in a variety of rural and urban settings. From the earliest references in the 17th century and throughout the 1830s, the banjo was exclusively known as an African-American tradition with a West African heritage. What further distinguishes the banjo is that it did not come from Africa as an unaltered tradition. Rather, the banjo's creation was the result of a blending between West African and European forms. The Skidmore News had even more on the subject, which we'll tell you about right now. Accordingly, in the 1840s, the banjo was seen as an exclusively black instrument. It was unheard of for a white person to play the banjo.
Who was that lady I saw you with this afternoon? That was no lady. That was my wife.
For more than 100 years, white and then black performers wore dark makeup and created not only a popular theatrical form, but stereotypes that are still with us today.
It was only because of racism that white people learned about the banjo. Minstrel shows rose in popularity, and with it came the mocking of black folks, making them out to be lazy and unintelligent, with the incorporation of, you guessed it, the banjo. The effect? The banjo was appropriated by white audiences and white musicians. Post-World War I, rebranding took place. Country was the mainstay. Big record labels wanted to sell it but couldn't do so if it was integrated. Thus, black artists on previous famous records received no recognition, and the covers were sold with white stand-ins. Suddenly, country music became marketed as white music. White audiences then adopted it as their own, and as they moved north, white Southerners brought country with them, further spreading the notion that country was white music indeed. Meanwhile, black artists, musicians, and their contributions were effectively erased in the white mainstream from their own genre. Nat Geo's, let's give a shout out to her, Santi Elijah Holly wrote a great piece for this site. And this was very recently in March. Here is a snippet. The presence of black folks in country music, while not quite universally acknowledged, is not exactly a secret. The distinctive sound of the Carter family, the first family of country music, was influenced in the 20s by Leslie Riddle, a black blues and gospel guitar player and folklorist. As a boy in the 30s, Hank Williams learned his craft from black guitar player Rufus T-Tot Payne, just as Johnny Cash would learn from Gus Cannon. As Times' Taylor Crumpton would write as well. One of the biggest lies this nation has ever told is that black people are not country, that they do not live in small towns, despite what Jason Aldean sings. Black people have always lived in the country. It's where we prayed. It's where we sang. It's where we worshiped. To be black in country is to undo the historical narrative that has been told to you. The plantation is not the nucleus of country identity. It is not the totem of the South. And yet it was NPR's podcast, It's Been a Minute, that would hit the nail on the head and a must-listen session. The kingmakers within the genre utilize racism to promote and make success of those putting their art out for the masses. Black Opry founder Holly G would say, as a country music fan, I did not feel safe in country music spaces. It is not confusing to me that black people have been hesitant to come into this space. Sound familiar? I mean, did we just forget what T-Pain said moments ago to open up this piece? Additionally, the country music industry and white country fans alike have done little to welcome non-white artists, either by gatekeeping who's allowed to appear on their charts, refusing to play certain artists on their radio, or displaying Confederate flags at prestigious country music festivals, something that was recently banned. Lastly, it's also essential to acknowledge that in the history of country music, black women are nearly entirely left out. This is largely because black women, facing both racism and sexism, were given no platform at all to break into the industry. The first black woman to enter the country world and gain commercial success was Linda Martell, who released her first album, Color Me Country, in 1970. In the past decade, we have seen the number of black female country artists grow, yet they still face discrimination. So that is where I end with this. When T-Pain speaks of his experience, it is reminiscent of the experiences that many black artists and those in the space have faced. If you can, please do support us here at TYT Sports. Become a channel member. Go to youtube.com/TYT Sports and click the join button, and or go to TYT.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate all the love.